Factors impacting student learning for LGBTQ plus students. What is LGBTQ plus? It is an acronym for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, and questioning, and others. It refers to a population of people united by having gender identities or sexual orientations that differ from the heterosexual and cisgender majority. Research studies combined, it is estimated that an average of 3 to 6% of students identify as LGBTQ+. Due to fears about coming out, the percentage is not a true representation of the number of LGBTQ+ students in preschool through 12th grade schools in the United States. Their fears include bullying, violence, and rejection from fellow students and staff, which lead to anxiety, depression, and hypervigilance. These fears and psychological issues impact their ability to learn in all areas and are more likely to miss school, resulting in a lower GPA. LGBTQ plus students experiencing these factors that impact their learning and quality of life are also less likely to go to college. There are many current supports for LGBTQ plus students. California AB 1266, the School Success and Opportunity Act, makes the clear obligation of California schools to allow all LGBTQ plus students to participate in all school activities, programs, and facilities. U.S. Title IX. No person in the U.S. shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Several organizations work continuously to ensure these are being carried out. Some schools are already using books and curriculum to teach and support LGBTQ plus students. Many organizations offer curriculum and lesson plans for teachers to use to teach about LGBTQ plus and to help foster a safe learning environment for all. There are many training programs, professional development opportunities offered for districts nationwide to learn how to support LGBTQ plus students so that they feel safe and want to come to school, and also how to teach about LGBTQ plus to all students while still meeting Common Core standards. Some schools and teachers are already utilizing these resources. In addition, best practices have been developed by many organizations for staff to follow. While there are very good current supports for students, there are missing supports for LGBTQ plus students because schools are not fully compliant with current policies and laws. There is a lack of teacher training. Current teachers need to be trained on how to support LGBTQ plus students, create an inclusive classroom, and teach about LGBTQ plus to all students. Teachers in training credential programs need to have required courses that prepare them to support LGBTQ plus students and teach about it. In addition, schools have none or a limited number of support staff and support programs. There are limited numbers of trained counselors and school psychologists, limited prohibited clubs and groups, limited or no support groups, and no transition services for college-bound LGBTQ plus students. There is a need for inclusionary practices to be improved. That includes classrooms, curriculum, sports, activities, field trips, events, and so on. Staff lacking appropriate training increases LGBTQ plus student risk in many areas and greatly impacts their learning, social life, and psychological well-being. There are many ways in which we can address missing supports for LGBTQ plus students. Many organizations are vigilant in working to ensure schools are fully compliant with current policies and laws. If a school district is not fully compliant, a student, parent, staff member, or community member can make a formal complaint with the Office of Education of the state in which they reside. More research is emerging showing the significant positive impacts of having courses and trainings for current teachers, counselors, school psychologists, and staff, and for those studying to become an educator or other service provider. It is now up to the universities and districts to create these courses and trainings. Schools can start now by starting small. create a zero-tolerance policy against bullying and shaming of LGBTQ plus students that also applies to staff, provide training on best practices for working with these students, posters around the school, create a group or club for LGBTQ plus students, provide more resources for teachers, and show your support in your own way. Schools can easily create transition planning services for LGBTQ plus students who are wanting to go to college. The LGBTQ Connection organization has created a set of best practices for educators and staff to support LGBTQ plus students. Following a set of best practices allows for students to feel safe and want to come to school. It eases their anxiety, may decrease depression, and increase their desire to participate in learning. They are as follows. Number 1, allow for self-identification. Avoid assumptions because it's not about acting or looking a certain way. Number 2, be respectful of confidentiality and privacy. Allow for the fact that not everyone is ready or able to be open about their sexuality. Number 3, create inclusive spaces. Use rainbows and inclusive imagery such as LGBTQ couples, individuals, and families. Number 4, develop inclusive language habits. Respect and use self-identified gender pronouns, names, and use gender-neutral language such as hey, y'all. And number 5, always educate yourself continuously. There are many ways in which we can address factors impacting LGBTQ plus student learning. One of these ways is creating inclusive classrooms for LGBTQ plus students. Making LGBTQ plus a part of the curriculum creates an inclusive classroom where all students feel welcomed, safe, included, noticed, valued, respected, and increases student learning and participation. This can ensure that they maintain a healthy GPA. Using history, stories, books, social justice issues, and teaching tolerance can become a part of the curriculum and still meet Common Core standards. Writing assignments are also a great way to allow students to express themselves while meeting their educational requirements. Creating a curriculum with a LGBTQ plus focus can address Common Core standards in English language arts, history, and social studies. And if you're the creative type, you can link it up to poetry and speaking and listening standards as well. Addressing factors impacting LGBTQ plus student learning in the area of in-school supports and inclusive programming for LGBTQ plus students. Some schools are already in full compliance with laws and policies. These schools welcome LGBTQ plus students to come as they are. Trained counselors and school psychologists. These staff members provide services for LGBTQ plus students in the school setting and connect them with outside resources. Trained teachers, school nurses, and other staff. These staff members create an inclusive and safe environment for LGBTQ plus students where they can learn and want to be successful. Transition planning services for college-bound LGBTQ plus students. Some schools have transition planning services specific to LGBTQ plus students. These services help students be prepared when they arrive to college and connect them with resources once they arrive. There are other in-school supports and inclusive programming for LGBTQ plus students. Clubs and groups. Some schools currently have clubs and groups for LGBTQ plus students. Research shows that having a Genders and Sexualities Alliance group at school is a positive way to include every student. Sports and other programs. Some schools are already including LGBTQ plus students in any of their sports and other programs that were once gender specific. Events. Some schools are already having awareness events for LGBTQ plus students and promote inclusion in all social events by setting the standard that a student can attend with whomever they want and dress however they want. In conclusion, you can be a part of LGBTQ plus student success. Look up your local, state, and federal laws and policies to ensure you're doing your part as an educator and that your district is too. Attend local LGBTQ plus themed trainings. They are often free. Show your support by creating an inclusive classroom by changing some of your curriculum, hanging posters to show your support, and use the best practices listed in this presentation. Checks and balances. Make sure your school has inclusive curriculum and classrooms, appropriately trained staff, an anti-bullying policy that includes LGBTQ plus students, transition planning services, inclusive programming for sports and events, and a club or group for LGBTQ plus students. If they don't, let it be known. Be an advocate. If your school doesn't already have one, start a Genders and Sexualities Alliance group at your school. Now please stay tuned for the silent portion of this presentation for great graphics you can attain for your classroom or school and a list of resources. Thank you.